So, kind of building what we discussed, we figured we'd, to start off this presentation, get some hard data behind the why. And there's a lot of stats on this slide, and a lot of them really just tell the same story. Speed to lead is the single biggest differentiator when it comes to inbound lead conversion. Let's start with the biggest one at the top there. Responding within 5 minutes makes you 100 times more likely to connect with that lead. 100 times. This brings me to when I bought a house a couple of years ago, and I've had various projects that I've needed. I'm not handy at all. I mean, I could put a nail into a wall. I could maybe flush a toilet, but I'm not really so good at handy stuff. So I rely on, handymen and plumbers and stuff. And I recall a project with a floor. I needed a floor put in, because the floor in my basement wasn't good. I needed one put in. So I went through a portal, which allowed me to connect with multiple contractors. And I've done that a few times. It was for plumbing. One time was for maybe like a roof shingle replacement. And every single time, it was really the contractor that reached out to me, maybe first or second, that always got my business. There would be times where I'd have somebody on my roof fixing it, and I'd have a contractor reaching out saying, "Hey, I'm interested." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, man. Like it's been days ago." So that's just one idea where, from a B2C perspective, that speed to lead is just so crucial. I'm sure everybody on this webinar could also agree. Whoever gets there first.
Yeah, the way that I look at this problem is like, so I, everybody has competition, and I also have a ton of competition, and if I'm super fast, meaning I execute like an email or even a WhatsApp message or even phone call, whatever that is, right? Within a minute or two, I'm really pushing down the lead, down the funnel, and I'm providing the sales support and the service, right? And people really enjoy having conversation with me or my team, and they also like the software. Even though they didn't manage to do their due diligence, on other vendors, they're happy to buy your stuff because they really like the speed, the speed and service and everything, right? Super quick. And you kind of have to think about, especially when you have a ton of, competitors in the space, it's like super important. It's a lot more important. The more competition you have, the more important it is the speed, and executing everything literally within minutes. So yeah, I used to work as a VP sales in my previous gig, and I had literally SDRs calling within 5 minutes. We had an SLA of 5 minutes to call the leads, and we had reps working 24/7 around the clock because we were doing business, in the US, Australia, Europe, etc. And I was manning, the Slack channel. When the lead comes in, you literally call immediately. So it's super important. So no,
Frank, you should have called us. Kidding.
Yeah, back then you didn't exist. That was like,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But like this is an example, like, and that's because, I back then when I was a VP sales, I had like 20 competitors, and I knew my buyers like super savvy, right? And they would go and search on like G2, if you're in B2B, like go to G2 or like whatever, like on Google, like right now it's ChatGPT. What are the alternatives? Because they want to do due diligence. But if you're like super fast and you push them down the funnel and they really like what they're seeing, in a lot of cases, they would just go and buy. Especially, if it's like, if it's not like, an enterprise deal, they're happy to kind of progress even on the same day. So for us, kind of made sense back then. And yeah, I just typically think from a kind of how red is the ocean. So the more red it is, the more competitors you have, the more important this is. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think even from a buyer perspective, B2B, B2C, you tend to trust, or you would inherently trust a company or a person more if they reach out to you right away. And it's like, oh, wow, this is the service that I'm going to get. You're reaching out this quickly. So it's such an onion that has so many layers to it outside of direct revenue, to your point, whether it's, they're buying or whether it's enterprise. But yeah, and that kind of, so some of these other metrics here, I know at this point, people have probably read all of them, but, responding within 5 minutes, makes you 100 times more likely, like we talked about. 78% of shoppers, buy from the first company that responds, right? So that kind of ties into what I mentioned before. And again, look, this, whether it's enterprise or not, this is probably more B2C focused here, some of these metrics, but there is just an inherent advantage getting out to that customer first. And right now, Frank, I mean, I think we're at a point now where, not everybody's using AI. I mean, a lot of people we're still in the genesis of it, and still a lot of companies that are trying to figure things out. And you could think of it as do you want to have a competitive advantage over your 15 or 16 competitors that maybe aren't doing this yet? So, 90%.
Yeah, the other thing that comes to mind when it comes to speed, right? So if you're being, on the B2B front, if you want to book, like a demo, in a lot of the buyers actually want to have the demo like right now, right? So that's just another. So
Yes.
a lot of folks are on B2B, and if you can open your own calendar right now on your website, and if you don't have any availability for today, you are most likely losing leads. So you have to have some availability the same day, and that's another kind of way to look at why this whole thing is important. There are some people that need software now, whatever they want to buy, they need it like right now, and waiting for a demo to happen, or something to happen, 2 days down the road is just not good enough today, because the expectation, people are used to like Amazon Prime, like all of this, stuff, being delivered like super fast, everything's happening super fast. So it increases the expectations, increase over time, what the users expect from any business out there. So it does definitely add the pressure to kind of execute faster. But the good stuff is, with all everything that happens on the LLM front, on the agentic front, you are able actually to deliver this, and that's why you guys.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And I think to echo your point there, I think the buying paradigm is just shifting, as we go through time. I think people, just to your point, immediate gratification, right? There's a reason why people still go to the mall. There's a reason why, despite the fact that we have Amazon and all these things, people want it right away. And you could see a tool that maybe you might be interested in today, but maybe in 3 hours, the shiny object is gone. So you have to really capitalize on that.
On the impulse buying.
Yeah, that's right. I'm a big impulse buyer. So.
I was like, I sometimes I want to buy something, and like 30 minutes later, I was like, no, it's probably a bad decision. But if that company was fast enough, I would probably have purchased that that expensive thing. There's sometimes expensive things that I want to buy, and 30 minutes later, it's like, nah, I'm not gonna.
That's why I need to disconnect my credit card from Instagram, because I'm always scrolling through. Oh, that looks cool, and then there's more boxes coming to the front of my house, and my wife not so happy.
So impulse buying is another kind of thing. People on the B2C front, but also on the B2B front, there's impulse buying. People, they look at something, they're like, yeah, this is pretty cool, and they want to buy it. And if it's fast, they'll end up buying it. And if not, then they may forget about it. Whatever happens, they don't end up buying it, right? So that's what ultimately what we're missing out. So. Guys, it would be good to find out maybe in chat if you do track your speed, whatever you want to call that, SLA, etc. So speed, how fast are you processing your leads on average? It would be good to hear that in chat if you are tracking that. If you're not tracking that, that's fine. You don't have to say you're not tracking it. But yeah, it would be good to find out if somebody is tracking. On our end, our SLAs are actually 2 minutes. So that means within 2 minutes we have to execute something. So like right now we just execute an email, like a typical onboarding stuff, and then actually on top of that we would just actually send a WhatsApp message. If we identify a number, we got a WhatsApp account, we'd execute a WhatsApp, and then we would typically see that these like at least a couple touch points. You can also do like LinkedIn on the B2B front. You can connect on LinkedIn as well. And so like it's like, what do you do when within that kind of specific time frame? I bet you're going to go into that as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, we have outside of these metrics, we have some other things. We have also a case study, but I guess just the final point to wrap up this particular slide, which is just great. A lot of good information here. 7 out of 100 companies reply within 5 minutes. So there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of businesses out there to increase all of their closing rates. And I'm sure if there's people on this webinar right now that want to make more money, I mean, that should be the most the one thing that we should look at. Frank, to your point, who's what does the response rates look like? We're responding right away. Do we have structured SLAs? Is it taking us a day? Is it taking us a week? So definitely good for everybody in general, not just on this webinar, to look to see what those metrics are.